Hi, I'm Mike Wargo. Columbia is back home in Florida following a record-breaking round trip. The first United States microgravity laboratory mission came to an end about 6:45 Central Time this morning. We'll talk about the longest space shuttle mission in history and the science that came home with it on Today in Space. Good morning from NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. STS-50, the United States Microgravity Laboratory mission, was the first flight on a shuttle fitted with equipment that's needed to stay in space for extended periods of time. That's significant because longer flights mean more time to do more science in microgravity or the free fall of Earth orbit. It's the kind of work that will be done aboard Space Station Freedom. When Columbia came home today, it was indeed another step toward permanent presence in space. This morning, Columbia made its first landing ever at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. It touched down just a short distance from the launch pad from which this extended mission started about 2 weeks ago. It was quite an impressive round trip, one that racked up more than 5,700,000 miles. This mission has been long on science successes. It marks the beginning of a new era in microgravity research. 31 investigations were conducted in crystal growth, fluid physics, combustion science, biotechnology, and human physiology. We'll bring you the highlights next on Today in Space. It certainly has been a scientifically rich mission. To help summarize the large number of science investigations, we bring you now a series of reports. We begin with the broad field of crystal growth. When you hear the word crystal, many of you imagine fine glassware, jewelry, and beautiful minerals. But when scientists hear that same word, crystal, they think of the heart of medical instruments and computers, how gasoline is made, and a key to unlocking the secrets of how to design more effective medicines.
When these crystals are produced on Earth, they suffer from the effects of gravity, which masks many subtle processes. When grown in the microgravity of Earth orbit, the harmful effects of gravity are virtually eliminated. Under these conditions, the process of crystal growth then becomes more decipherable, and this better understanding may help scientists improve how crystals are grown here on the ground. Many different types of crystals were grown on the flight of USML-1 using many different techniques. Zeolite crystals are used in the manufacture of every gallon of gasoline. They are formed from simple elements, silicon, aluminum, and oxygen, and are used as a very fine sieve in many industrially important processes. Alternate payload specialist Dr. Al Sacco told us how he felt about his experiment.
Well, we think it went very well. We expect to get very large crystals, defect-free crystals. The facility has worked amazingly well.
To help scientists develop more effective pharmaceuticals, large, high-quality crystals of proteins are needed. The protein crystal growth experiment conducted over 100 individual investigations. Payload specialist Dr. Larry DeLucas was actively involved in initiating many of the experiments by hand.
This has really been the dream mission. Everything has gone just great. And we're looking forward to getting our crystals back and starting our scientific analysis.
That was Dr. David Matheson telling us about his experiment in the crystal growth furnace. That facility was used to process a number of different types of crystals used in high-speed computers, advanced medical instruments, and a number of common electronics. Dr. Alex Lahosky's experiment was unexpectedly cut short, but this made extra time available for the other investigators. He had this to say.
I really feel good because the other PIs, they almost get twice the science they planned. I am really upbeat.
Dr. Lahosky is eagerly looking forward to conducting an extensive analysis of his crystal.
The operations that the crew went through on the 4th of July was probably the greatest 4th of July present that anybody could have gotten.
That was Dr. David Larson. The operation he's referring to was conducted by Bonnie Dunbar and Ken Bowersox. Using a flexible glove box to create an additional level of safety, Bonnie opened the crystal growth furnace, retrieved the previously processed samples, and inserted an additional sample, enabling 3 more experiments to be conducted. This was a dress rehearsal for the kind of activities that will routinely be carried out on Space Station Freedom. The Space Acceleration Measurement System has collected over 1.2 gigabytes of information about the microgravity environment within Spacelab. For those of you with personal computers, this corresponds to about 1,000 floppy disks of information.
One person who helped bring all the diverse science activity together was mission scientist Dr. Donald Fraser. He joins us now live from the Space Lab Control Center here in Huntsville. Don, it looks a little empty behind you. What's happening there now?
Well, we're down to a skeleton crew, Mike. There are a few people around. Some of the skeletons are in the closet, and there are a few in the back room, and we're still manning the consoles, but we're ready to go in case something comes up.
And what about the principal investigators? Where are they now?
The principal investigators, there are one or two scattered here and there, and we're in touch with them. There's some that have who have completed their science, who have gone back to their universities, their institutions, and there's still some in town, but we can get in touch with them if there ever arises a need.
Well, thanks an awful lot, Don. It looks like we're coming to the final stages of the mission.
I think we are. We're now ready to really do the job of analyzing the data and get some good science.
How long do you think the scientists will take to analyze their data?
Well, you know, they'll start right away. Already there's some indication of some analysis that has gone on prior to their departure, and we think that probably the major publications will come out within the next year, and certainly soon thereafter.
Great. Thanks for taking your time, Don.
Thank you.
Again, that was USML-1 Mission scientist Dr. Donald Fraser. There's another measurement that's going to be made before the Space Lab's powered down. Byron, what they're going to do, they're going to measure the acceleration or how the shuttle moves and its impact on microgravity measurements using the Space Acceleration Measurement System. They're going to ask the orbiter to go through a number of different maneuvers, just like you go through when you fly your high-performance jet aircraft. The first that they'll do is they'll ask the orbiter to go through a 180-degree yaw movement as the orbiter turns this way. They'll then go another 180 degrees, but this time pitching the orbiter. And a final 180-degree maneuver, this time asking the orbiter to roll. In this way, the space shuttle comes back to its original position.
Well, Mike, I understand it's probably important for the crew to stay quiet during these maneuvers because they really want to find out the effects of the thrusters. Is that right?
That's right. This is really going to be a calibration run at the end of the mission, and the only thing they'll have to do then is turn out the lights.
Sounds great, Mike. Thanks a lot.
This mission has brought to light a wide range of scientific principles that a lot of people hadn't heard of before.
But thanks to a series of demonstrations by NASA chemist Cindy Upton, we brought some of that science down to Earth.
Cindy joins us now live from the Science Operations area. Cindy?
Well, Mike, I'm in the Science Operations area here at Marshall Space Flight Center, and you can see it's pretty empty. That's because the science gathering is over for this mission, and most everyone's gone home to start analyzing all the data they've gotten here on USML-1. Throughout this mission, I've tried to explain some of the science behind the experiments by conducting demonstrations. Let's have a look.
Let's begin at the beginning. Shortly after launch, Columbia reached an orbit about 200 miles above the Earth. Taking advantage of the Earth's gravity, the Space Lab fell continuously around our planet. On Earth, we can demonstrate free fall's connection to low gravity or microgravity. For example, when I drop a cup of water with a hole in it, the water stops flowing because a state of low gravity is achieved in free fall.
Now some final thoughts. As a microgravity scientist myself, I've found it very satisfying to see the unprecedented accomplishments of this first United States microgravity laboratory. My colleagues in the science operations area have invested years of hard work in their laboratories preparing for this flight. Experiments were developed and very sophisticated equipment was designed and built. The experiments went extremely well, and the equipment provided outstanding performance and versatility. They put in very long hours here while the investigations were underway. Their camaraderie, cooperation, and professionalism contributed significantly to the success of this mission. Now they have more long hours in the lab to look forward to, but these will be spent with very large grins on their faces as they begin the task of analyzing the results of their experiments. Again, this marks the beginning of a new era in microgravity research. Well, this brings to a close the USML-1 edition of Today in Space. We hope we've been able to bring the important science down to Earth for you. and to share with you the real excitement this historic mission has generated. On behalf of the entire Today in Space team, I'm Mike Wargo at NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama, saying thanks for tuning in.